Alright, Dynamite Delight is what we got today. 2 stories. That's what I really want to say this show was. A 2-story show. And I know you're going to say, dude, there's got to be more. There is going to be more. This is what it really feels like. A 2-storied show. When you look at the opening, Will Ospreay versus Buddy Matthews. That's not a story. There is no story there. But it was a damn good match. Now, let me give it to you like this. When you look at Buddy Murphy, originally in WWE, I always felt they could do something with him. Because he could talk, he's a great wrestler, but they never chose to do anything with him. Ever. When it came to Vince, and anybody else. So he ends up here, and pretty much the same thing. What has he done? He's worked with the House of Black, he represents the House of Black, but he's never, ever gotten anywhere. By himself. And to be honest, I believe he should be by himself. This is just me. I'm sure everybody else would have probably agreed with me. But as it stands, being by himself is what he should be. But I just don't see that happening while he's with the House of Black. So for me, he needs to leave AEW. Go somewhere else. Go to MLW. Go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Go to TNA. In actuality, I think they would do a lot more with him in TNA than they would do here. And I'm saying that clearly with a caveat because we still don't know how they're going to be going forward into this year. Particularly if they're only doing one show that's live possibly and the rest of the year is nothing. He could be a very good mainstay. That's one thing I could say for a Buddy Matthews. It was a great match between him and Kenny. They were pretty much evenly matched. Now I'm sure not everyone is going to be feeling that because not everybody likes high-flying wrestling. I'm sorry, not many people do. And all the 4 starts and all the 4 finishes. And I said starts on purpose. I had to because that's what you got in this match. But I'm not going to tell you it was a bad match, but it's going to be a style that you're not 100% going to be fond of. But you can say at least it was done and pretty well executed. And hearing Kenny, well, not Kenny, I'm about to think of Kenny because of what's going to happen at the end with him and Will Ospreay. But when you see Will put over Buddy Matthews and puts over Brody King and says you don't need to be in the House of Black, and if you want, you need somebody in your corner, I'm there for you, and they shake hands. It was a nice thing to show, but does it mean that Buddy Matthews is going to be something? I don't know. I'm hoping. Let him go off on his own. It's time. That's just me. Next. What did I feel about Bobby Lashley being a destroyer to a Mark Briscoe? Not fun. I didn't want to see Mark get annihilated by Bobby Lashley. I'm sorry. I just don't want to see that. But due to the fact of what happened before the match happened when Private Party were having a nice private party in person with some good-looking women, one woman who is a little thick, wearing a dress that was right up to near her ass, was quite nice to see. I'm not sure everyone else would agree with that. But there was some good-looking women, even though one of them was wearing jeans, which was kind of like, you're supposed to really make them look sexy, but you have one woman there that is wearing just sneakers and jeans, and the other 2 to 4 women are all in dresses. I'm just like, not that doesn't look sexy. That doesn't look like it'd be a real party unless she's hip-hopper. But they were cool. Her Syndicate comes out. They're willing to give him some drinks. And when it comes to MVP, he says, hey, there's no problem. We ain't starting nothing. But, dude, this is how we roll. And what you got right here, I started that. And Isaiah made it very... He agreed. So when that part came out, when Bobby says, we want those damn tag championships, pours out the liquor back in... Well, not into the bottle, but into the ice can. Well, not ice can. What do you call that? Forget it. I can't remember the name of it. And I'm going to remember it later. I'm going to get mad that I remember the name of where the bubbly is. And you're going to probably tell me, that's a container of ice. There you go. Just say that. I just felt like I didn't want to see Mark get annihilated by a Bobby Lashley. And I'm like, let me give it to you like this. Seeing Private Party come out after that, okay, because they got to set up the match, but there's no story there. There's just the Hurt Syndicate wants gold. Moving on. The gauntlet match, the Casino Gauntlet match. And the first two who started it was Jay White and Adam Page. Was not surprised. I was okay with it. The person that was the most surprising that was being pushed the most was Powerhouse Hobbs. Someone must have said, you know what, we got a big ass man here that can talk, that has a great look. Maybe we should do something with him at least to make Moxley look credible. Because he's been going up against smaller guys. Let's throw somebody bigger at him that has looked decently good. Particularly that Hobbs just came back. He has been booked decently well. It's the reason why I think it was last week or the week after before that where he destroyed 2 jobbers. This is what it led to. Now, who else looked good during that gauntlet match? Let me give it to you like this. Garcia was okay. Yes, once he had 3 people pinned up against 3 people pinned up against one corner of the ring, hammering on their heads, and one of them is literally in his crotch. I'm surprised he didn't go like that to Hangman Page. He did not. But he looked okay. I'm like, it's cool. Jeff Jarrett was an interesting situation, which I'm wondering if the Slag Daddy's going to talk about Jeff Jarrett. Because what happened during that match when you see Wheeler Yuta as Jeff Jarrett came to... Well, you see what I'm watching here. Because I'm not telling you that I want to see Jeff Jarrett as a champion. No. I don't. But due to the fact of how bad the booking has been, at this point, seeing Jeff Jarrett at least being pushed to a certain point and hopefully the booking is alright is something I'm willing to do. Doesn't mean he has to win a championship. I want to make this clear to people because they don't understand being relevant. Relevancy in wrestling is not always having the top title and getting pretty much the biggest money. A lot of time relevancy is to be remembered. And on top of that, after you're no longer wrestling, you're still relevant because people still see you as important. That's the way it works. Not all the time it works, but that's where it generally works. And seeing that they're doing something with Jeff. I'm not telling you he should become a champion. He should not be the world champion. He shouldn't be the TNT champion. He could be an international champion temporarily. I don't see him becoming a... would he be a good continental champion? No. International champion? Maybe. Now, that doesn't mean Kateska would need to lose, which I don't want to see Kateska lose. But if you were going to throw a title on him, throw the most lowest tier title you got onto a Jeff Jarrett. That's not from ROH. Wheeler Yuta fought him and pushed him into the back. So he wasn't a factor here. But it is obvious they're going to do something with Jeff. Don't know. But let's just hope it's for a low tier title, not going for something big. Moving on. I will say that, setting up for the women's Casino Battle Royal, only one match that's set up for the first person to be there, not the second. That takes away from women. This. You see what I'm talking about? The men have had at least a few weeks at least 2 weeks to start building into the Casino Battle Royal. Women only got 1 week. And they only got one general match to let the first one, to be there. You wouldn't even give more than a few women the opportunity to get into the match. Nothing. Just one woman. And we got... How can I say this? Look. Statlander turning back into a face. Fine. I'm not saying it was a great thing to do. She should have stayed a heel because she's one of the few women that's on TV a lot. Seeing that Willow Nightingale was in the match, we didn't really get any interviews from Willow, which I think was needed because we haven't heard anything from Willow if she accepts the apology of Chris. And then we get Tony Time, which is Tony Storm, who is not Tasteless Tony Storm. My Timeless Tony Storm. I call it Tasteless. Just in case anybody's here for the first time. Hiya. I call Tony Storm Tasteless Tony Storm because as a woman who is being like someone from the 1950s and the 1940s, that type of elegance, that type, not ash of elegance from TNA. Just that type of TV elegance. That's what she... Chin up and tits out. I love that. Throwing the shoe was the best thing at it, well, as it was. But then we get this rocker storm. And I'm not feeling it. I'm hoping they'll switch her back to timeless Toni Storm. I have to say it in disrespect because it is historical. I'm hoping they'll put her back, do a reset and put her right back where she was with Toni Storm as timeless. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, she did not win the match. It was, like I said, Chris Statlander. But now we're wondering, or I'm wondering, what now? Who is she going to be dealing with now? What is she going to be doing now? Look at what's going on with Mariah May. She's now going to have a match on Collision with Harley Cameron. Yes, Harley's a beautiful woman. Yes, Harley got a great set of boobs. Yes, she actually can talk very well. That makes her very interesting. But do I care about Harley Cameron about to get her ass handed to her by Mariah May when they should start be building a story between Mariah May and Toni Storm? Something has to be done there. It can't just be kept that much separated, particularly that, again, Toni Storm debuted on Rampage, which is no longer a show anymore, really hurt her. I'm sorry, it did. Instead of doing it on Dynamite, or at least Collision, you do it on Rampage. That doesn't exist anymore. I'm like, really? Let's make this clear. The closing of the show. Well, actually, a few things before then. Ian Riccaboni, who was in ROH. I'm like, okay, no Tony Schiavone. So we got Ian now, at least for today. I don't know if he's going to do any shows going forward, but if he does, right now it feels awkward with him there. I'm not saying Ian doesn't know how to do play-by-play. He doesn't know how to talk along with Excalibur, and it looks like Danny Magic Lamont. I'm not saying he doesn't have that, but I'm like, what are we doing here? Why did you switch out Tony Schiavone? Is he just going to be exclusively Collision? That could be a possibility. That's the reason why they put Ian Riccaboni there. That could be it. And if that is the deal, he's got a lot to prove to me personally. I've heard him a few times on ROH when I did do a review a couple of times with it. But I'm not going to lie. Maybe his partner back then might have been better. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what was his name? Copeland? I believe that's his name is Copeland. I can't remember his name. It's been a while. The other guy. Maybe he would have been better than Ian Riccaboni. Now, of course, it's going to take time for me to get used to him and see if he can make it work. But this is what we got. Second, when it comes to Cope and his segment, talking about FTR saying they're friends, talking about what happened to a Bryan Danielson, to a Darby Allin, to what has happened in this company, and talking about how he broke his neck. But then when he's trying to get the fans to be interested in what he's saying, oh my gosh. Guys, this is what I was talking about. If this is about Moxley, this is not going to work. It is going to fall flat on its place. You got the rated R superstar, Adam Copeland, who is still loved by the fans, but the fans barely gave him any type of reaction when he was talking about when he broke his neck, when he was working with Eddie Guerrero, when he broke his leg when he was working. And it's like, really? Really? He has moderate to low reaction to the fans where he was. And I'm like, I see a woman in the back who's watching going like this, who's fixing her hair. And then, really? The fans there felt dead, especially when it came to him. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't cheer for like Kenny or Will Ospreay, but for Adam, who's always been over, who's always been liked and loved, and you didn't hear that much cheering for him, especially once the fighting started and he got over on Mox. And then he was in trouble and Powerhouse Hawk had to come out next to FTR to try and save him. But you can't tell me that he was flat, and it was not his fault. He did a good promo, but still, that was bad. Last but not least, Kenny Omega. Talking about the life he had and having 2 feet of his intestine removed. Now, I gotta say this, honestly. I actually knew someone who had some of his intestine removed, but that wasn't for a ticolitis. What was it? I can't remember the name of it, the full name, ticolitis. He actually had to have removed because of cancer. He had, I think it was cancer. I don't know if it was the same condition, but he literally had to have at least a good foot or so of his intestine removed. It could have been the same thing, but that was back in the 90s when technology wasn't as advanced as it is now. But after he had his intestines removed, he was never the same. But this wasn't about him. This was about Kenny. And Kenny made it very clear. He was very worried if he could ever come back, and should he come back, because he had to go back in multiple times after the surgery when he was trying to train and get back into shape. So, knowing this, and seeing he came back, and he says in his promo, I'm not coming back for power, and I'm not coming back for money. I'm coming back because of this sport I love, of wrestling. With that gash on the skull that he got from Gabe, what was his name? Gabe Kidd. I thought it was done well. But then, seeing that, let me give it to you like this. Seeing that Don Callis got his ass whooped, that was nice. And then seeing the 2 guys that can never get it done in a... Guys, I still say this right now. When you look at Brian Cage and Lance Archer, they can never get it done. Yes, Lance Archer was in the gauntlet match, but I knew he wasn't going to win. And when I see him, along with this situation, why would I believe anything? And then seeing the only person that really made the best sense, Kyle Fletcher, who is really the most dominant one there, who seems to be the best built there, and he does punch Kenny in the gut, which really does add along to it, which was good. But seeing Will Ospreay come out and save him, and they do the stare down. Now, mind you, this is me, because I didn't watch New Japan during the time when they were both together, and they were having their feuds. For me, personally, I don't know how detailed that feud had been, and to be honest, I'm not looking to find out. Not because I don't care about wrestling, not because I don't care about Will Ospreay or a Kenny Omega. All that matters to me now, and this is what you guys need to understand, because if you say you need to watch this, I say no. I'm not going to watch it, because it is the job of the promotion to make sure that they book these guys in a way that adds more to whatever they had before. Because remember, not everyone watches New Japan. They got to make sure these guys mean something in that promotion. It's not about the feud years ago. This is about how they're going to make them look good together. Either they're going to feud together or they're going to work together. They got to make it mean something. Like I said, relevancy is important more than just good matches. And getting the top prize. Not saying that everyone doesn't go for the top prize. If it's a tag, the world champion or intercontinental champion, or in this case, either the world title or the TNT title. I'm not saying that isn't important. It's about making it mean something. And if you don't do it right, they don't mean anything. So I don't know how they're going to make Kenny and Will work together against the Don Callis family. Don't know. But I do know this. Going forward, we have two stories. We got the story of Adam Copeland going up against Moxley. And then we have this story with the Don Callis family dealing with Kyle Fletcher and Teska, along with a Kenny Omega along with the ride. That's where it's going to be, because I do believe Kenny's going to be first and Will's going to be with him, kind of like Kenny and then Will. And I do believe there's a possibility they could actually flip it and make it about Will eventually, and Kenny could be by his side to at least continue their working together as they're trying to face the Don Callis family. But this is just me. Peace.